Just ahead, there's another edition of the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith, Public Affairs Director of the Florida News Network.
And I'm Executive Producer Michael Yaffee.
Michael, a pleasure once again this week. Our special guest a little bit later on in the hour, Kevin McCarty. And you're saying, that sounds familiar. Kevin McCarty was the state of Florida's insurance commissioner for many years. Jeb Bush appointed him as the first non-elected state insurance commissioner years ago when the state streamlined the cabinet system. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to take a look at this hurricane season that we're in. Stay put. The Florida Roundtable begins following these messages.
Wow, your flowers are gorgeous. What's your secret?
It's no secret. It's Bear Advanced.
You mean these blue bottles?
Uh-huh. I protect my beauties with all-in-one rose and flower care. It's insect and disease control plus fertilizer.
Really? What's this 12-month tree and shrub protect and feed?
Oh, I use it on my trees. It kills bugs for up to a year, plus it feeds. It's that easy. Hey, where are you going?
To get my own. I want a great yard, too.
Bear Advanced. Get more from the blue bottle. Always read and follow label instructions.
When a hurricane makes landfall, power outages are soon to follow. So now is the time to prepare. Have batteries of all sizes on hand as part of your hurricane kit. If you plan to use a generator, test it monthly. And remember that when using one, it needs to be more than 20 feet away from doors and windows to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. This hurricane preparedness tip has been brought to you by Storm Peace Hurricane Protection. This affordable supplemental insurance covers you where your homeowner's insurance doesn't. Visit stormpeace.com for your quote today. That's stormpeace.com.
Are you or a loved one turning or about to turn 65? Then now's the time to start thinking about your health care needs, specifically Medicare. If you're new to Medicare, there are a lot of options to choose from, and the whole process can be confusing. But the licensed insurance agents at Easy Medicare can help you find the right Medicare plan based on your budget and health care needs. Call Easy Medicare today and they'll guide you through the process. Whether you're completely new to it all or looking to improve on an existing Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement plan, Easy Medicare can help you find a plan that best suits you and your health care needs. Visit easymedicare.com/radio. EasyMedicare.com is a non-government site. It is an affiliate of eTelequote Insurance, Inc., a private licensed representative of Medicare insurance organizations with a Medicare contract. Sales agents may be compensated based on your enrollment in a health plan. Receiving quotes from our website and from our licensed insurance agents is always free, and you're under no obligation to purchase any services.
800-957-6213. 800-957-6213. That's 800-957-6213.
This is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith, Public Affairs Director of the Florida News Network.
And I'm Executive Producer Michael Yaffee.
Michael, a pleasure to be with you once again this week. Lots of things going on. A presidential visit to the Tampa Bay area a few days ago. All kinds of things happening. But I saw a story, I had a story forwarded to me by a reliable source about President Trump. And it is a story that I do not believe you're going to see in your local newspaper or on the evening news or on the cable news networks or any of that kind of thing. You know, the president is paid $400,000 per year.
Right.
Now, the last president who never took a penny of that, and it wasn't that high then, was Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover was supposed to get $100,000 a year, and he never took a cent. Donald Trump, so far, has not taken 1 cent of the $400,000 annual salary. And thus far, he has donated all of it to the Department of Interior. And you say, now, why would he give all that money to the Department of the Interior? He has specifically earmarked it for the care and improvement of our military cemeteries, our national parks, military cemeteries, to look after those who have served and gave their all or taken advantage of being entitled to be buried in a national cemetery. And I think that that is a touching story.
Yeah.
It shows that he does care. And like I say, unfortunately, I don't think you're going to see it anywhere.
You know, it's really interesting about Trump. You can criticize him all you want, but at least in my opinion, he does seem to really care about our veterans and our national parks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, I passed that along. You can file that away, I suppose that, and a $5 bill will get you a cup of coffee in a nice coffee shop someplace. You tell that story. But in any event, and speaking of the World War II veterans, here we are. We're in the midst of the 75th anniversary of World War II, and it set me to thinking. My father served in World War II, but yet most of the veterans, and there were 16 million who put on the uniform, we have about 600,000 of them left, and we are losing them at the rate of close to 400 a day. Per day. Now, those who are still around are into their 90s, most of them, unless they lied to get into the service to begin with. And so think about this. 10 years from now, those left are going to be over 100 years old. And 20 years from now, there will be nobody. I was around when the last World War I veteran died. It wasn't that long ago. But 20 years from now, they are all going to be gone. And we won't be able to hear the stories. They're a very private generation. But
I hear that a lot from relatives of World War II veterans, that they don't talk about the war too much.
No, they're a very private generation. And so where I'm going with this is, please, take advantage of those that are still around. If you know someone in your neighborhood or you have one in the family, take a few seconds out of your busy schedule and say to them, thank you for what you did. Or maybe see if you can get them to sit down and chat with you for half an hour, because these first-hand accounts are going away. This is the generation that Tom Brokaw called the greatest generation, that when the world imploded and civilization looked to be on the verge of collapsing, they put on a uniform and went and saved us. They had no reason to do that because they grew up in the worst depression in the history of the world. Many of them didn't know where their next meal was coming from, and they are rapidly going away. So show some appreciation, huh? All right, well, let us take a pause along our network line. We'll remind you that this is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we'll continue our conversation following these messages.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. Call the Federal Tax Management Helpline that has been set up for you, 800-267-1344. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe more than $10,000 in taxes, call for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the Federal Tax Management Hotline, 800-267-1344. That's 800-267-1344. 800-267-1344.
In a world of tiny tomatoes and backyard pests, one man and his better half dig deep to save backyard gardens.
Joni, stand by to upload expert videos.
Already loaded, Tom.
Wow, you're good.
You're not so bad yourself.
Tom and Joni McCubbin star in hisandhersgardening.com. Critics rave.
Tom and Joni, they really grow on you. 2 green thumbs up.
Don't miss hisandhersgardening.com.
Wow, your flowers are gorgeous. What's your secret?
It's no secret. It's Bear Advanced.
You mean these blue bottles?
Uh-huh. I protect my beauties with all-in-one rose and flower care. It's insect and disease control plus fertilizer.
Really? What's this 12-month tree and shrub protect and feed?
Oh, I use it on my trees. It kills bugs for up to a year, plus it feeds. It's that easy. Hey, where are you going?
To get my own. I want a great yard, too.
Bear Advanced. Get more from the blue bottle. Always read and follow label instructions.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, the service of Florida's talk and entertainment networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And Michael, as promised, we are joined at this point of the program by Kevin McCarty. Kevin is a former insurance commissioner of the state of Florida. He served in that position for a goodly number of years. As I recall, Kevin, you came into it when Governor Jeb Bush and the legislature reformed or restructured the state cabinet system. We went from a multiple-member elected cabinet down to just 4 members who are elected statewide now. State insurance commissioner used to be an elected position for many, many years, and the governor persuaded the voters to change that. And you were the first man to fill the position of insurance commissioner. And anyways, let me say welcome to the Florida Roundtable before we get too far into this. We're delighted to have you with us today. And Kevin, if you would, besides the insurance commissioner, take a minute or so and give us a little bit of your background, your education and years here in Florida and things you did other than insurance commissioner.
Well, I thank you, Reagan, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It really is a pleasure. Well, you know, I began my career at the Department of Insurance 27 years ago, and began in just several months before Hurricane Andrew made its historic landfall in Miami-Dade County, which, of course, was a historically transformational period of time for Floridians. But, you know, prior to that, I attended the University of Florida and graduated with an undergraduate degree in political science and economics, and went on to law school there, and was interested in public service and took an opportunity to join a workers' comp task force for the reform of workers' comp law, and was found that to be an exciting opportunity, and worked at the Department of Labor for a number of years. And, you know, and you look at government service, there's kind of 2 really major areas of government work. Although government provides thousands of services, you know, there's generally the administration of a program like a Social Security program or a welfare program, et cetera. And then there's usually like a policing function, or enforcement or taxes and those functions. I just found that when I worked with the Department of Insurance, that the Department of Insurance did so many things that I thought was helpful in terms of promoting marketplaces, but also protecting consumers. And I reached out and took an opportunity to work there, and worked in several capacities in policy and solvency, and supervised over fraud and technology. So I was able during my tenure there to get a fairly broad background, which I think helped prepare me for being Florida's first appointed insurance commissioner. And prior to that, I served as Treasurer Gallagher, Tom Gallagher, who served as our insurance commissioner and state elected treasurer as part of that 7-member team you were mentioning before that comprised the Florida cabinet. When they reduced the voters through a constitutional revision commission, reduced those 7 to 4, one of the casualties, if you would be the state treasurer, and part of that was the function of the insurance commissioner, which then became appointed. And Florida is unique among the country in that the insurance commissioner doesn't serve the governor or isn't directly elected, but rather serves 4 elected officials. The CFO and the governor have to be on the prevailing side. So it was an honor and pleasure to be named Florida's first insurance commissioner by Governor Bush and the team of cabinet members at the time. But it ushered in a period of great deal of transformation and change. As you may know, Florida is not for the faint of heart. We're known for all kinds of challenges with our senior population, a history of land fraud and fraudsters and hucksters, and, of course, being in the vortex of some of the worst hurricanes in history. So It's been a labor of love to serve in the many capacities of public service, and particularly my 12, 13 years as Florida's insurance commissioner.
And while you were Florida insurance commissioner, were you there during the 2004 hurricanes when we had multiple in 1 year?
Yeah, we had 8 storms back to back over the period of time from 2004 and 2005. If you were in Florida at the time, you would remember that you would be taking down your shutters or your storm preparation materials for hardening your home in anticipation of a storm, only to be listening to the Weather Channel and to your local news and radio stations and hearing calls for yet another storm going back to back. It was one of the most perilous and challenging times in modern history for any state. It challenged not only the strength and the character of the people of Florida, but it was a real test to the resources, the training, and the ability of our local and state search and rescue, and our ability to demonstrate resiliency in the aftermath of a storm. And fortunately, we had the very capable leadership of Tom Gallagher, who went through Hurricane Andrew, so he was seasoned in regard to that as Florida's insurance commissioner years ago. Before that, but also with Governor Jeb Bush, who really took each hurricane experience, learned as much as he can to better prepare Florida for the next storm. And so while Florida went through a series of significant damage to our property and to the insurance market, was devastated after those 2 back-to-back years, we did learn a lot about how to better prepare, how to better save lives, how to better shelter, how to better harden homes, and how to bring capital into the market to revitalize a market that had been completely devastated by the storms.
Now, one of the things that you say here, the insurance industry was devastated. I remember that very well. And out of that was a lot of debate and discussion back and forth, but there came the state-funded insurance of sort of last resort, if you will. And I wanted you to talk about that creation and how that works.
Well, actually, Florida went when Hurricane Andrew hit. Hurricane Andrew was a storm of enormous impact because it so dramatically exceeded by factor of 10 what any actuarial scientist or any firm or any group of analysts thought was the potential maximum loss from a storm. What that came to realize across boards in America is that Florida was unpredictable in terms of its potential losses, which caused companies to do some fairly dramatic and draconian things, which is to non-renew their policies in Florida. By about 6 or 8 months after Hurricane Andrew made landfall, companies were filing with the state of Florida applications to withdraw from the state. We had upwards of just in excess of a total. If you totaled up all the policies to be non-renewed, it would have been in excess of 1 million policies. Well, back in 1992, that was a very significant portion of the total insured homes in Florida. So as a response to that, the Florida legislature, with Tom Gallagher as one of the architects, developed the Hurricane Catastrophe Fund. Now, most people aren't familiar with that, but what a catastrophe fund does is provides reinsurance to our insurance companies at a affordable price so that they would stabilize the marketplace. And then we created a joint underwriting association, really the first of its kind in the nation. Historically, residual markets, as you refer to them, or markets of last resorts, were the result of, for instance, urban unrest, where you couldn't buy insurance in inner cities, or as a result of particular risk on the ocean. So you would have coverage for hurricane in what they would call beach plans, or the Florida Windstorm Association. But the Florida Joint Underwriting Association was the first of its kind to address widespread non-renewal or cancellation of policies across all the states, but particularly in the Tri-County area of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Those policies provided a framework of stability, but 2004 and 2005 collectively created such vast amount of loss across the entire state. Remember, Andrew really was limited to a small swath of property in Dade County, and much of the rest of Florida remains unscathed. In 2004 or 5, every county in Florida was declared a disaster area. Every county in Florida, 1 in 4 homes, had been damaged by the storm. So it was massive scale, and that caused a contraction of the insurers from writing policies, which then resulted in a vast expansion of the residual markets in Florida. The JUA expanded up to 1.5 million policies that were in the residual market, which caused public policymakers a great deal of concern about the ability of the state-created JUA to be able to pay claims in the event of a storm. And it was backed by an assessment mechanism, which many thought would be detrimental to the greater economy of the state of Florida.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are at the point where we're going to have to take a little bit of a break along our network line here. Kevin McCarty, the former Florida Insurance Commissioner, is our very special guest this day. You are listening to the Florida Roundtable, the service of Florida's talk and entertainment networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And, of course, we are in the hurricane season for this year. And it's being referred to as going to be a normal season, whatever that is. We're not quite sure about that. But we're going to ask Kevin about hurricane preparedness and other things. Stay put. The Florida Roundtable continues in a moment.
A pretty common problem in our area is black and green stuff on outdoor surfaces. You scrub it off and it comes right back. You need something that will keep it clean. Wet and Forget. It keeps surfaces clean for a year or more. Just spray it on and leave it. Make cleaning easier. Pick up a bottle of Wet and Forget today at Walmart, Ace, Do It Best, or visit wetandforget.com to find a store near you.
Unexpected expenses can hit anyone, and many Floridians turn to small dollar loans to manage those temporary financial challenges. When using a small dollar loan, be sure to choose a state licensed lender. Remember that borrowers have rights under Florida law, including flexible repayment options if you can't repay on time. Make sure you understand the cost and terms of the loan before you borrow, and only borrow what you can afford to pay back. For more information, go to borrowsmartfl.com. This message is brought to you by the Florida Community Financial Services Association.
Florida's boating environment is always changing. New sunsets, new experiences that you won't find anywhere else on Earth. But one thing that never changes, boating while impaired by drugs or alcohol. It's illegal in the state of Florida. Boating under the influence will land you in jail, or worse, kill someone you love. It's just simply not a risk worth taking. Learn more about Florida's boating laws at myfwc.com. Brought to you by the FWC Division of Law Enforcement.
Your yard's days of being picked on are over, thanks to the science of Bear Advanced Brush Killer Plus. Its penetrating formula is specifically designed to kill hard-to-control brush, like kudzu, poison ivy, poison oak, and wild berries, roots and all. And the concentrate product even kills stumps, so your yard never has to worry about being bullied. Bear Advanced. Get more from the blue bottle. BearAdvanced.com. Always read and follow label directions.
Terrorist acts and shootings are often described as great tragedies. They are not. We live in a world so concerned with being politically correct that they're afraid to call evil what it is, evil. Man's sin nature is as old as the Garden of Eden. Many love to blame culture, poverty, or lack of education and opportunity as the problem. They may have a good or bad impact, but the big problem is sin. Acknowledging our sin nature will show us our need for a Savior who changes us from within. That Savior's name is Jesus. He came to die for the sins of all who will acknowledge their sin. Faith in Him strikes a mighty blow at evil. So quit calling man's evil acts a tragedy. They are evil and God hates it. Yet thankfully He loves us in spite of our evil and sin. Jesus not only forgives us, but gives us the want to overcome evil with good. This is Brian Wright, speaking right from my heart.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
From Pensacola to Key West and all points in between, you're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. This interview today brought to you by Storm Peace. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And our very special guest today is Kevin McCarty, the former insurance commissioner of the state of Florida. Kevin, thank you so much for being with us this day. We've talked about the horrible years, 2004, 2005. We've talked about Hurricane Andrew. And yet, of course, memories fade. People forget. Many hundreds of thousands of new people are in Florida now who have never gone through a hurricane. So I wanted to take a few minutes, and you, as much as anybody, is in a great position to be able to discuss preparedness should such a storm come our way again anywhere in the state. And so I guess the first question out of the box is, if you're going to be prepared during this hurricane season, where in the world does a new person start?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's interesting the way you characterize that, because by Florida measurements, we go through periods of time where there's a lull in that activity of hurricanes, and even worse, sometimes we'll have a small hurricane. And people who have never been in a hurricane before, who have moved from the Northeast to retire or to begin their lives over in Florida, think they've weathered a storm when they've got through a small Cat 1. When we know that that is just a teaser of the future of what's to come. So you have what Governor Bush used to refer to as the culture of amnesia. As time goes by, we seem to quickly forget the lessons we've learned from some of the more horrific storms that have made landfall and affected the lives of tens of thousands of Floridians. But Florida does a very effective job in a combination of the state government and the private sector of doing a campaign each year trying to make consumers across Florida aware of the oncoming of hurricane season. As you mentioned, we are in hurricane season now. It's usually the worst of the storms are in the latter part of the season, and it's never too late to prepare. And the thing to remember is that, while we need to take whatever steps are necessary to protect our property, the number one thing we need to do is to protect the safety and health of our families. So have an evacuation plan. Make sure you know if there is a disaster that you and your family have discussed what you're going to do in case of that disaster in order to make sure that lives are saved. Remember, property can be replaced, but life is precious. And so our number one focus is on the safety of our Floridians. And that's what our governor did in that last go around with Irma, and much to amazingly was able to move everyone out of harm's way and virtually probably saved the lives of thousands of people had not the steps have been taken. But Florida is a peninsula, and there's only a few roads in and out. So everybody can't be on I-95 and I-75 going to Georgia and Alabama trying to get out of harm's way. We've seen that before. It causes gridlock, and the worst place you could possibly be is in a car running out of gas trying to get out of Florida in a traffic jam. So we've learned that hardening your home and finding local shelters. Florida invested a great deal of money over the last decade on hurricane shelters, on hurricane preparedness in terms of hardening those shelters. We have had a great deal of emphasis and incentives for consumers to retrofit their homes. We have the strongest building code and building code enforcement in the country in terms of ensuring that homes that are built in the future can withstand storms. So we have a trajectory, a path for building a better Florida for the future. But in the immediacy of a storm, you could go to a number of websites from the Red Cross to your Florida Department of Insurance, Department of Financial Services website. The National Associations of Insurance Commissioners has a free smartphone app that will help you collect a database of information about your inventory of your property, so that when you do file a claim, all that information is in an app that you can then send to a friend to be saved. It's very easy to use. Even I can use it. And it's a great tool for you to make sure you have a good inventory of photographs of your home, so that when you file your complaint and contact your agent, that information is readily available and you more promptly get paid your claim. But make sure you collect all your information and your valuables, put them in a safe place, put them in a plastic bag, have enough water and food, make sure you get your medications in advance. The Office of Insurance Regulation will issue a number of emergency bulletins at the time of a storm so that you can go and refill your prescription drugs. And remember, if you're going to evacuate early and to stay calm and try to avoid panic and prepare for the worst. So oftentimes we say, I should never have left. It was nothing but a brush. But, I talked personally to people who weathered Hurricane Andrew in a bathtub with a mattress on top of them, thinking their life was over, but also thinking they would never, ever put themselves through the horrific experience of going through a Class 4, Class 5 hurricane. So while it seems like a waste of time to do all that just to find out that the storm headed off in a different direction, it just as easily could have zeroed in right on your home and your family. So when in doubt, move out and make sure that you have the supplies that you need to last at least 3 days. Simple things. Make sure you have a radio. Make sure you have bottled water, a first aid kit, non-perishable foods, obviously your prescription drugs. And those people that have pets, make sure you check in advance of what places have pet shelters that will allow you to take your pets. Not all shelters will take your pets. And remember, shelters fill up sometimes in some areas very fast. So make sure you have a plan B if your shelter in your local area are filling up.
What do you think is one of the main things that people forget when they are preparing? Is there something that you see afterwards that a lot of people didn't think of that they wish they would have thought of when preparing for a hurricane?
I think most people are unaware of the inventory of their home. Most of the time now you look on the different softwares, et cetera, and they figure out what the value of your losses are and it tends to be grossly underestimate. And you really, really should do the best that you can. And the technology is easy. It takes a small investment of time to, like I said, to use one of these apps. And I think the second one, and probably even more problematic, is the people do not know what is and is not covered in their insurance policy. Over the years, we have been the benefit of competition across America, with companies competing by offering not just your traditional fire policy, which was the origin of homeowners insurance, but over the years they added a lot of benefits to those policies, things like inflation guard, which continues to go up, and over time, the replacement cost on your contents, and when the coverage for, and if you have to go and stay in a hotel and evacuate, that they would pay you for those kinds of out-of-pocket expenses as well. What has changed dramatically in Florida, and it can with the advent of Hurricane Andrew, and accelerated over the years, is we saw that a reversal of that trend in Florida, but not just in Florida, in any what's considered to be high-risk areas. Traditionally, homeowners had a $500 deductible. And so most 85% of Floridians have a 2% deductible. When you say, well, 2%, well, that doesn't sound too bad, but that's 2% of the value of the restructure of your home. That can be thousands of dollars out-of-pocket expenses. Most Floridians, as you know, and most of your listeners are have a small savings, but pretty much live paycheck to paycheck, and can ill afford to take $10,000, $15,000 to effectuate those claims, to effectuate the repairs on their homes. And knowing what's in your policy and what's not, and that's just as important. I strongly advise, when I was insurance commissioner, on an annual basis, what I would call is the annual insurance checkup.
And Kevin, hold that thought. We'll come back to it, but the clock has caught up with us again. We're going to have to take a little bit of a pause here along our network line. This is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's talk and entertainment networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
We are chatting with former Florida Insurance Commissioner Kevin McCarty on the Florida Roundtable, and this conversation is being brought to you by Storm Peace. We will continue following these messages.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. Call the Federal Tax Management Helpline that has been set up for you, 800-267-1344. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe more than $10,000 in taxes, call for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the Federal Tax Management Hotline, 800-267-1344. That's 800-267-1344. 800-267-1344.
Your yard's days of being picked on are over, thanks to the science of Bear Advanced Brush Killer Plus. Its penetrating formula is specifically designed to kill hard-to-control brush, like kudzu, poison ivy, poison oak, and wild berries, roots and all. And the concentrate product even kills stumps, so your yard never has to worry about being bullied. Bear Advanced. Get more from the Blue Bottle. BearAdvanced.com. Always read and follow label directions.
A massive Category 4 hurricane has just begun to batter the state of Florida.
Hurricane force winds extend 220 miles from the center.
More than half the state of Florida is now without power.
It's important to be prepared for hurricane season thanks to an innovative insurance product called Storm Peace. Being prepared now means not having to worry about gaps in your homeowner's insurance. Storm Peace has no deductibles and pays almost immediately. Use the money for any hurricane-related expense, even evacuation costs. Visit stormpeace.com to receive a quote or chat with an agent today.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, the service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
Our very special guest this day is Kevin McCarty. He is the former Florida Insurance Commissioner. We have been talking about hurricane preparedness, and as we went into that last break, we were starting to talk about knowing what is covered in your insurance policy. And Kevin, you were talking about your personal advice to folks on how to take care of those things, and I wanted to give you a chance to finish up that thought.
Yes, there are a number of resource tools available on the internet, but I strongly recommend talking to an insurance professional, an insurance agent, to see if your insurance is right for you and your family and the home that you own. So many people are not aware, for instance, that flood insurance is not covered, that they have a 2% or 3% deductible, which means a lot of out-of-pocket expenses, that a number of things like pool cages are excluded, fallen debris, appurtenant structures. Should they have replacement costs, which will actually let you buy something new, or actual cash value, which just gives you the diminished value or the present day value for, if you paid $1,000 for a TV, you only get $100 for it today. So in keeping the kinds of written receipts, et cetera, is very, very difficult to do. So you really need to, in combination with working with your insurance agent and with using a detailed cataloging of your property, that's the best way to prepare yourself and educate yourself whether you need more insurance. Because, like you said, there are a lot of gaps in insurance today that many consumers are not aware of.
And so when people are not getting the coverage that they feel like they're getting, what are some options that they have?
Well, in the aftermath of the storms, we found that there's a limited amount of reinsurance capital, and there's a limited amount of capital to go around. And so one of the reasons insurance companies started to reduce the policy coverage is that they could continue to write more policies. And what we have found is that people have to come out of pocket a lot more than they used to. In Hurricane Irma, most of those losses were not covered by the insurance industry. They were covered by consumers. There's a Storm Peace is a new product that has been introduced. It's called parametric insurance. And what that does is it makes the determination of paying a claim based upon two factors, transparent factors. One is the strength of the storm and the distance that storm is from your house. It's a very extremely simple claims paying process. As a matter of fact, 98% of policyholders in Irma were paid, within 72 hours of the storm. As a matter of fact, most of the policyholders were notified by Storm Peace that they qualified for coverage under their insurance policy. This is a real paradigm shift in how insurance is done. Now, it is not intended to be a comprehensive policy to cover your home, but it does provide coverage up to $60,000 that you can purchase, and you could use it for things like repairing your pool cage or paying for your deductible or replacing spoiled food or paying for your hotel room or meals when your family evacuated and to get out of harm's way. So that it is a new way of bringing capital markets into the reinsurance market, directly into the insurance market in Florida, and in many ways into the pockets of people at the time they most need it. it's not uncommon for insurance claims to go months that are not paid. And that's usual because they have to demonstrate, the holder has to demonstrate that the cause of lausation and the storm was the cause, and that any of the ensuing damage was a result of the storm, and what the value was of the lost property. So it's not something that could be done overnight. I'm not criticizing insurance companies. That's just the nature of the business. The sort of the sweet spot about the paramedic insurance is that it pays based upon very transparent factors, and instantaneously whether or not you're going to get paid by Stormpiece, which is a product of insured risk cover. It's a venture-backed company that is a approved California licensed company, and they sell insurance through insurance agents in Florida or on their website. And I recommend Floridians to contact their agent to see if this is something that might help augment the insurance they currently have and cover some of those high out-of-pocket expenses that many people are totally unaware of.
And one thing that we might want to stress when you mentioned that this is a California company, but in order to do business in Florida, they have to meet all of the standards and laws that have been put in place governing the Florida companies.
Well, yes, the company is a highly rated company by rating organizations in terms of its capital position and capital and surplus. It is backed by Swiss Re, which is one of the world's largest insurance companies, and certainly one of the thought leaders on mitigation and innovations and products. But this product, it is served on what's called a surplus lines basis, and that means that the company is authorized to do business in the state. They did meet with the insurance commissioner in the insurance department to discuss the product and its application in Florida. However, its rates are not reviewed in Florida, but it is the product has been has been accepted for use in terms of as a surplus lines product. But I think the biggest thing is that it's been endorsed by the Florida Insurance Association, Florida agents. They tried the product last year. They were amazed about how quickly money was deposited directly into their account. And they received many of them received a notification within 24 hours via email that they're qualified for the claims and the value of their claim. So when your local agents are promoting the product based upon their personal experience, and that's what this has been. I mean, it's been word of mouth. I mean, most insurance companies, dread the fact that they had insurance. The founders of Stormpiece were anxious to demonstrate that Stormpiece works, that it can pay, and it can pay promptly, and it can pay with a virtually a hassle-free process of handling the claims.
And Kevin, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but we thank you for explaining Stormpiece to us. Our guest today, Kevin McCarty, the former Florida Insurance Commissioner. We've talked about hurricane preparedness and some financial preparedness here in the last few minutes as regards to Stormpiece. Kevin, we hope you will come back and visit with us again sometime soon. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we'll conclude the Florida Roundtable with a brief message following these words.
Have you written a book? You can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company. Countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their book to the market. Our professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, our authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books, like Amazon and brick-and-mortar bookstores. So So make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Don't wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author and seeing your name in print. You've already written a book, so the next thing to do is make this free call right now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
800-485-6003. 800-485-6003. That's 800-485-6003.
Terrorist acts and shootings are often described as great tragedies. They are not. We live in a world so concerned with being politically correct that they're afraid to call evil what it is, evil. Man's sin nature is as old as the Garden of Eden. Many love to blame culture, poverty, or lack of education and opportunity as the problem. They may have a good or bad impact, but the big problem is sin. Acknowledging our sin nature will show us our need for a Savior who changes us from within. That Savior's name is Jesus. He came to die for the sins of all who will acknowledge their sin. Faith in Him strikes a mighty blow at evil. So quit calling man's evil acts a tragedy. They are evil and God hates it. Yet thankfully He loves us in spite of our evil and sin. Jesus not only forgives us, but gives us the want to overcome evil with good. This is Brian Wright, speaking right from my heart.
In a world of tiny tomatoes and backyard pests, one man and his better half dig deep to save backyard gardens.
Joni, stand by to upload expert videos.
Already loaded, Tom.
Wow, you're good.
You're not so bad yourself.
Tom and Joni McCubbin star in hisandhersgardening.com. Critics rave.
Tom and Joni, they really grow on you. 2 green thumbs up.
Don't miss hisandhersgardening.com.
Employ Florida offers resources and services to help you find employment.
Hi, Gary here. Employ Florida helped me improve my interview skills, plus write a great resume. I attended networking events with many employers and other industry professionals just like me. With the workshops and training found at employflorida.com, I was able to land a great job in my field.
Job resources, real results, hired. Employflorida.com. That's employflorida.com.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, the service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we appreciate Kevin McCarty, Florida's former insurance commissioner, taking all that time to talk about hurricane preparedness with us this day. Kevin served, I don't know that he served the longest as Florida's insurance commissioner, but I can say this. I know he has so far served the longest as Florida's appointed insurance commissioner, because
there's only been like 2.
Yeah. But years ago when there were no term limits and the insurance commissioner was elected, we had a couple of gentlemen that went on. Matter of fact, one of them served over 20 years and died in office. Well,
it's probably because most people don't really understand the position, so they just reelect the same guy.
Yeah,
so
and they really don't know. And but this was, I think he provided us a lot of very good information on
this thing.
So, interesting thing. And take his advice. Even if you just do a little bit, in case a hurricane comes your way.
Well, and he gave good advice that you should not only prepare your house and get batteries and stuff, but you should also prepare your insurance stuff ahead of time.
Yes, and you need to know what your coverages are. And it can, hundreds of thousands of new people since we've had a horrible hurricane year here. It does happen. It can happen. And if you're going to stay here, sooner or later, it's going to come. One's going to come your way, too. Well, we want to say thank you for your time this day. We know you have lots of choices out there, up and down the dial and around. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we'll see you next week with another edition of the Florida Roundtable.
You've been listening to the Florida Roundtable, a news and public affairs presentation of the Florida News Network. The views and opinions expressed during this show are solely those of the participants and not necessarily those of this station's management, ownership, or sponsors. Please email your comments to reagansmith@fnnonline.net.